This is your World War III update. You know, today's one of those days where I wish I didn't give up smoking just so I could have that one cigarette. And I could do the meme. You know, the dreading the future meme. Yep, today would be that day. So before we get into today's news, and before I give you my wide-angle perspective on the future, I figure we should do a little mental health check-in with all the haters out there. Oh yes, it's time to channel the late, great John McAfee today. Are you ready? Because every so often you gotta dance on the graves of your haters. They say you shouldn't do that. They say that's sacrilegious. But every so often, you know, I think if there is a God above, he's like, okay, you've earned this, right? Today, I've earned it. Oh, yes. So what I want to do today is just remind people. The third or fourth day of this presidency, I told you that Trump is going to be the World War III president. You remember that? Maybe some of you don't. Maybe some of you are new here. To those of you who are new, well, just kick back and enjoy the rant. Yes. Because there's a lot of one-dimensional, rat-brain, single-track-minded individuals in the comment section, NPCs. Their one knee-jerk reaction to anybody who dare criticize their demagogue. What do they say? They get into the comment section. Oh, this guy's got Trump derangement syndrome. Where are you today with your Trump derangement syndrome accusations? You see, there's some people out there, sooner or later you're going to realize this in life, and probably when it's far too late. There's many people who are not caught in the same tribalistic web of lies that you cling to in order to bring yourself some sort of identity. Okay, there's some of us who are free thinkers. We're not bound by these petty divisions. Okay, there's some of us who actually just want to know the truth and are not entrenched in some bullshit agenda that was put there for them, some platform of ideas. Now, I'm not referring to the 99% of you who periodically offer constructive criticism. It doesn't even have to be respectful. Just have a unique insight that you go down there and write in the comment section. Some cogent retort to my many rants. I'm perfectly okay with that. Call me names if you want to, as long as you stimulate me to think. That's all I care about. But for those of you who didn't take the advice, who are wondering right now, you're in such a state of shock, aren't you? Probably not, because you blocked it out because of the cognitive dissonance thing. You still have not accepted it. You're still in denial. Everything I said, every single damn thing has come true. Oh, wait a minute. You didn't short the oil markets, did you? You begrudging curmudgeon, you. I see you lurking out there in the shadows. You guys are thinking Nate's lost it. Listen, crazy, insanity, and genius are cousins, okay? And you can't have one without the other. Now, I really hope you didn't short the gold and silver markets. I hope you didn't buy that Trump shitcoin business, did you? You didn't really think they were going to bring in world peace, did you? Oh, you thought you were going to get high-speed rail? No. You see, what you're going to get is Northrop Grumman. You're going to get some of that Lockheed Martin, some of them Raytheon contracts. Yep. And you're going to get a UFC contest at the White House this year. That's what your dumb ass is going to get. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I was right and you were wrong, and I hope you're still here, and let's now make amends, right? Because now that that's behind us, I hope that I'm willing to now cross the aisle, extend an olive branch to you once again, and say welcome back to the hundreds of thousands of you who abandoned me, who were with me up until that day. because your one-track, one-dimensional, tribalistic brain cell just could not fathom that somebody was criticizing Trump for reasons that were not political. Because I seen how this guy was going to be used by the establishment. And here we are. Oil is up 12% in a day, up 50% in just a few months. You know, I could retire right now off the investments that I've made that were informed by my content of my daily updates. I could retire. Am I going to do that? No. I can die a happy man. Why? Because I didn't sell out to anybody. I told the establishment to go fuck themselves, and here I am. I'm still here. Why? Because we all burn together. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I'm still wise enough to realize that no matter how right I am, I'm still stuck in here with all of you who I disagree with. And again, this is just for that sliver of people who really want attention so bad. Not the 99% of you. I love you guys. And even if, yeah, maybe some of you are assholes too, but I still love you. Okay? So, you want to know what's going to happen next, eh? You want to know what's going to happen next. Okay. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Because I'm not retiring yet. No. I might have closed the store down. And by the way, how are you liking that inflation lately with respect to gasoline prices? Because you do realize that the price of oil is a leading indicator for pretty much all inflation, right? So you realize that in the next couple months, you are going to see a drastic increase in the price of everything, food especially. So I hope you didn't sell that freeze-dried food. I hope you held on to that at least. And I hope you didn't sell your silver and gold. Yikes. Could you imagine Trump gets into office and there was some guy out there who sold everything who's like, I don't need to prep anymore. This is it. World peace is upon us. Yikes. Okay. On a more serious note, let's talk. So CanadianPreparedness.com, if you bought anything at 50% off as we were liquidating, you can be happy to know that the price of those things are now only going to go up. So you really saved a lot more. We actually still do have some Italian gas masks. We found like 6 boxes of these things. These are like the highest end of high-end gas masks. They're even better than the Mira stuff, but you know, Mira has better marketing and they get the job done. Mira is a great product. Don't get me wrong. They're an excellent product, but if you want the creme de la creme of gas masks, it's the Mestel gas masks. We have them on the website. They're still half off. They're under cost. I want to get rid of all this stuff because I'm getting out of the business. I want to strictly focus on getting you guys the information and doing the odd gear review and prepping video. I have literally a dozen prepping videos that I've yet to release because I know nobody would pay attention to it right now. And I'm worried that, you know, that's the information that people need. Unfortunately, you know, people never gravitate towards that they need. It's always this frivolous pursuit of things that we want, which typically don't align with our needs. Anyways, I'm not here to lecture you on that. If you want those deals, go check them out. CanadianPreparedness.com. We've condensed our warehouse now into a 5,000 square foot warehouse. We're building a new studio. I got graffiti artists going. We're building a new set. It's going to be pretty cool because we're going to the bitter end. I mean, you know, the plane has to keep going forward to stay aloft. And even though it's crashing, even though the whole thing is about to come down, we're going to keep on going to the bitter end. So in terms of what's about to happen, yes, the prices of things are about to rise. Jet fuel has skyrocketed. Diesel has gotten very expensive. I'm not sure how it is in the United States, but the price of gasoline is ticking up here by the day. Fuel oil is still cheaper than crude, but not as cheap anymore. And of course, crude price is touching $90 a barrel. Trump has said that there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. Iran has said, fuck you, come into our country and find out. We welcome the ground forces. Now, a lot of misguided Americans are all gung-ho about this, and they're like, oh, well, that's a challenge, right? And forgetting about the whole point of the presidency was the whole platform, which is baffling to me, even though it's not, because I understand social psychology. But it's incredible that they're doing the complete opposite of what they said. and everybody's on board. And so now that the Iranians are challenging the Americans to enter into the fray, that's exactly what they're going to do. Because the U.S. Army has abruptly canceled a major training exercise for the 82nd Airborne Division's headquarters. You remember them? Fueling speculation within the Pentagon that the unit's rapid response force could be deployed to the Middle East, potentially including ground operations. Are they going to send in the paratroopers? Really? Looks like that might be the case. They're about to send people into the killing fields. And this could be a massive blunder. In terms of air superiority, I mean, yeah, it's hook, line, and sinker at this point, even though they're realizing that with the Iranians shooting planes down, even though CENTCOM is making up all kinds of excuses about how these planes are coming down, they're saying that they were shot down, it was friendly fire, blah, blah, blah. It was, some other kind of bullshit explanation. Clearly, the Iranians have a lot of tricks up their sleeve, and they're hunkering down, and they're decentralized. They've learned the lessons of old, that a centralized force, which is technologically inferior, maybe not even so much qualitatively, even though there is a big qualitative difference now with AI, quantitatively speaking, they just don't have the numbers to fight everybody, to fight the entirety of the golden billion collective West. So they have to be smart with their resources. They have to do this distribution of assets into a decentralized, compartmentalized way in order to be resilient to these decapitation strikes. Look, you can't decapitate something that is everywhere. You can't decapitate something when you don't know who the leading officer is. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump where Lieutenant Dan says, "Don't salute me," right? So this is what the Iranians are doing. There's Iranian generals now, I shit you not, fully burqa'd out in the niqab. Is that what it's called? Or is it the niqab or the burqa? The full one, where you're fully gowned. There are actual generals who are hiding in that. Now, I made a comment today on X that, during the early days of the Ukraine conflict, there were a lot of people who were assuming a different gender, if you know what I mean, so that they could escape the country. There were guys who were dressed up as women so they could get across the border and evade the draft. At least these generals are doing it so that they can fight a war. So they have to be incredibly careful because it's inundated with spies, okay? So Iran this is a multi-pronged, multi-phasic, multi-spectrum, multi-everything attack on Iran, from the air, from the ground, from the virtual realm of cyber, and now they're about to put in the ground forces, and these 82nd Airborne paratroopers are likely going to supplement and be embedded throughout the Kurdish populations. And it looks like Azerbaijan's about to make a move because Iran allegedly hit them with a drone. Now, Iran denies this. Iran says that if we wanted to attack you with drones, there would have been a lot more. And so Iran has some leverage here. And the further we push the Iranians, the deeper and deeper they have to go on the kill chain in terms of counter-value targets. So they started with the things that the Middle East values most, which is oil tankers. And they hit another oil tanker today. I just told you about one that they hit with a naval drone yesterday. Well, they hit another one today. And oil refineries and things of that nature. And perhaps Professor Zhang is right. Maybe they are going to start going for the jugular and just go for the desalination plants. In fact, I heard that one of those was targeted once again. Now, with respect to Azerbaijan, they don't really hold a lot of leverage. I mean, they're going to get lit up by these drones, and I don't even think they have much air defense, if we're being honest. I think most of that air defense, the CENTCOM admits that the THAAD systems have failed. I watched a video today. I was going to post it on YouTube, but I was concerned about posting it because it literally shows a bunch of U.S. troops watching a missile, like, come in, and this thing just comes in fast. And it probably lands like 100 feet away from them and causes some pretty extreme destruction. And so the missile defense is failing. When the Iranians do decide to come out of their holes, and start unloading these missiles on American military bases and critical infrastructure throughout the region, I mean, it's game over. It's not even a matter of do we have the interceptors. Now with these cluster warheads, yikes. And now the Chinese are saying that we're going to help you financially. And on the topic of China, I got a good one for you. So apparently the Chinese, since the last 7 days, since this war began, I talked about this a bit last night, they've been completely quiet. Zero incursions into the Taiwanese air defense zone. This has not happened in many, many years. Not one incursion by a PLA plane into the Taiwanese airspace. Now, what does this mean? Is this Xi trying to de-escalate things? He can't be that naive to think that any gesture from the Chinese right now will be taken as a gesture of de-escalation. The Americans will completely ignore it. So most people, including myself, are wondering if they're actually getting ready to pull the trigger, if they're actually pooling up their resources, retooling all the planes, getting everything maintained, so when the time comes to strike, boom, right when those American paratroopers hit the ground in Iran, and right when they realize that the U.S. is entangled and inextricably locked into another quagmire of a situation, that's when they're going to strike. Because what's the U.S. going to do, right? You've started this war with the Kurds and the Iranians and the Azerbaijanis and the Baluchistanis. And the Baluchistanis apparently today they put out a video saying, no, we're actually more aligned with the United States now because we don't like the fact that you're bombing our Shiite countrymen. Okay? And the Pakistanis are like, no, there's ain't no way we're going to allow a Baluchistan, and you have to have the map. You got to watch the video I did yesterday to understand what the hell I'm talking about. But basically, there's these various ethnic groups that the United States is going to try to use to try to balkanize Syria and just throw the whole thing for a tizzy, right? Now, a lot of these groups, they're kind of on the fence about this because I think a lot of them realize that we can't be trusted. And so they're just waiting to be thrown under the bus and then designated as terrorists in a few years after we use them. Remember, we did this, the Mujahideen, the Al-Qaeda and all that. We used all these groups for our ends, and then we ultimately framed them when it was instrumental for us geopolitically and economically to do so. So I think a lot of people are catching on. So we'll see if it goes to plan. Now, the Americans are really, and the Israelis are really trying to antagonize this internecine conflict. They're really trying to get the Iranians fighting with everybody else. Did you notice that? There's so much attempts to instigate. They were saying the other day that the Kurdistanis, I don't even know if that's Kurdistani, I don't know. They don't have a country, they're just an ethnic people. The Kurdistanians, whatever you want to call them, that they were getting ready to do a ground invasion. In fact, that the ground invasion has started. They did that because they wanted the Iranians to attack. And then that would give the Kurdistanis license to respond. And the same thing is the case with the Azeris. They're saying that, there was a drone that was fired at Azerbaijan. And so there's a lot of ethnic Azeris in Iran, apparently, like lots, like millions. And so I guess the expectation is they would join the fight. But many of them, I've been told, actually want to remain a part of Iran. So this is not a cut and dry civil war where it's the Persians that are going to be basically turned into a rump state and backed into a corner. Not necessarily. Anything can happen here. And so the China angle is very important because that could just come out of nowhere. And if China does Taiwan, let me tell you something. If China sees the writing on the wall and see what the U.S. is trying to do by collapsing their ability to get oil, the lifeblood of their system, not just because Iran goes down, but because 80% of their oil comes from that region, because they know that Iran will target Saudi Arabia. And I have this weird theory that I'm playing with right now that maybe the U.S. actually does want the price of oil to increase. Because think about it. Who benefits from the price of oil rising. The U.S. is the #1 producer of oil. Now, as crazy as that sounds, they produce more than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. The oil barons would get insurmountably wealthy if the price of oil shot to $200 a barrel. They could open up new shale oil fields. This would completely destroy China, okay? Destroy China's rise. They know it's coming in the future. You might as well, interdict it now. And a lot of people will say, well, Nate, what about the cost of living? Trump has to keep his word to his voters. What's he going to do if the gas price goes through the roof? Well, I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to release some kind of rebate, some kind of subsidy, some freedom dividend of sorts, some gas dividend from all this windfall of oil revenues that they have, right? And then they're going to say, you know what, we're not just going to give you, the amount that we've made on oil, or we're not just going to give you enough to cover the increased cost of gasoline. No, they're going to say, we're going to give you a little bit extra, right? And people are going to be like, extra? Free money? Not knowing that it's going to add to the deficit, and it's going to be money that was printed, essentially, which will be ultimately inflationary. But people ain't going to care, and this is all going to segue into universal basic income. That's one theory, okay? That's the theory that says the U.S. wants the price of oil to go up because they know that this is how you really take down China, ultimately. Is it going to work? The Chinese are very resourceful people. China is prepared. There's a reason why China's copper stockpiles are at all-time highs. There's a reason why their grain is at all-time highs, and their oil reserve is at all-time highs. And pretty much every essential commodity known to man, they are stockpiling. And they're doing this because they know this is coming. Right? They know that eventually this could be the card that gets played. Now, of course, the other angle is no, Trump wants to suppress prices. Trump needs prices low in order to appease his voting base. Look, oh boy. I mean, I don't even care anymore. If anybody is still behind this guy, and maybe you have some reasons that you can articulate in the comment section, feel free to do so. It's the lesser of two evils. You still think? You could probably make an argument, okay? I'm not saying I would agree with that necessarily, because I think they're all evil in their own way and they're all at parity, depending on the time of day. But, I mean, you have to, just accept that there's going to be people that no matter what this guy does, they will follow him to the ends of the earth. They're just brainwashed people. That's all there is to it. They're brainwashed and they'll listen to anything this guy says. And they're getting all butthurt in the comment section, right? I don't even know why they still watch the channel. I mean, it's flattering, really, that you still find something of use. And I think there's something to be said for that. I'm gonna go easy on whoever's left, because there's something to be said for a person who is still willing to listen to somebody that they're vehemently opposed to, even if their criticisms are very banal and one-dimensional. So maybe I salute you just a little bit with one finger, okay? But guys, the house is coming down. This is it. Now, what else is in the news? The economy's fucked. 90,000 jobs lost. U.S. producer inflation rose unexpectedly. It wasn't unexpected. Listen, if you want to know if inflation, what the CPI numbers are going to come in as, with 99% confidence, I would say, at least it's been this way for the last 5 years. Whenever oil has on average been up the prior month, the CPI suddenly magically goes up. What a shocker that the lifeblood of the global economy dictates prices. So, of course, if oil is shooting up to $90 at the time of making this video, what are we at here? It's about to close for the weekend. Yikes, up 13%, boy. Damn, where's that victory cigarette when I need it? If it's up 13%, guess what? Industry can absorb a certain amount of that. But we're not just talking about, fuel and energy. We're talking about petrochemicals. There's so much that relies on the price of oil. Never mind transportation, the supply chain, agriculture, the price of diesel, all the agricultural inputs, all of the other stuff that comes out of the Strait of Hormuz that is essential for global food prices. Things are going to get a lot more expensive. So we do still have some gear at Canadian Preparedness. I think I've already pitched it once. I almost seldom ever pitch it in these videos because, I don't know, I just feel wrong pitching stuff to people. And that's one of the other reasons why I got out of it, because I could never stand that criticism that I'm just doing it for money. You know, I got into it because I wanted to do a service by bringing people good, high-quality products. But there was just too many of those begrudging curmudgeons in the comment section. They got to me, but that wasn't the main reason why I gave up the store. It's because it's World War III and the government's going to take it all anyway, so fuck the government, right? Beat them to the punch. So if you want stuff at a heavy discount, link in the description below, because the shit is going to get a lot more expensive very, very soon. 10-year Treasury yields jumped 20 basis points this week. Not good. That might actually be bad for gold, because if they start to raise rates... Now, I still think we're a long ways away from that, because if you look at the 1970s, how that played out when only 6.3% of the global oil supply was taken offline, now we're talking about 20%, and Iran is shooting everything that goes through that region, and they're dead serious. Now Trump is saying, okay, we're going to bring warships into the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to, how they're going to do it is they're going to have like a grouping of tankers, and it's going to be kind of like a pilot truck when you pass through a construction zone. And so you're going to have these warships create this shield around the oil tankers, and that's how they're going to do it. And right now they're transiting the Suez Canal. That's the other USS Ford aircraft carrier, and so it should probably be there in a few days, I imagine. Now, it's going to have to deal with the Houthis. We're going to be waiting for them at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, if they have anything left in the tank at all. I guess we're going to find out. And then, of course, they have to deal with the anti-ship missiles. And this new threat today, well, you see, today was interesting because for the first time ever, the mainstream media has finally called attention to the fact that the war fronts are merging. They were talking about how the Russians were providing the Iranians with intelligence data when it's really been the Chinese, and that how the Chinese plan on potentially supporting Iran economically and in other ways throughout this conflict. So that was interesting to see them highlight. You know, yesterday I provided you the analogy. I don't think I originally came up with the idea. I think it was one of the people I had on the channel. They were talking about how there's geopolitical fault lines, and on the seismic plates, just like, you know, with the geological fault lines, you have pressure and you have friction, and that friction ultimately leads to a fire. And that fire, of course, takes the form of war. And along all of the geopolitical fault lines in the world where East meets West, with enough friction, a fire emerges. And we're about to see that friction, I think, start to intensify in the Indo-Pacific, but not until the boots hit the ground. What time are we at here? 28 minutes. That's a good rant. Not bad. The Magnificent Seven firms are still expected to pour more than $600 billion into AI. Did you know, I talked about this yesterday, I think I showed you a picture of it, the Amazon data center that was blown up in the UAE? Well, there was so much investment in that region to build out these data centers, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so to take those things out, you potentially, depending on, you know, how much of our grid here in the West is reliant on those things, I'm not sure how much exactly, but, you know, that's a prime target. I mean, why waste a drone on a hotel room when you can take out $100 billion of equipment with one go? So maybe not that much, but I think you get the point. So these are huge targets and very vulnerable, which is why a lot of the very important ones are being built deep underground in bunkers, because they know that data is the new oil. We can't forget about the lovely stock market, which is crashing. Darn. That sucks. And it's still at record levels of valuation. Can you believe that? It still has a long way to fall. It's not financial advice. Oil is up 60% in 4 months to a new 2-year high. Gasoline prices are up 20%. I think come Monday, gasoline is going to tick up quite a bit. Gulf states remain dangerously import dependent for food. Yes, they're running out of food. Now, I'm sure they could reroute it through Oman or Saudi Arabia in some ways, but that takes a long, long time. And there's a lot of bottlenecks in the process. The UAE imports roughly 80 to 90% of its food. That's where Dubai is. I was watching an Andrew Tate video. He was trying to make his way back to Dubai, and he called it the Mad Max quest or something like that. And I'm always wondering, I know they were preppers in Romania because Ron built them a bunker, or was supposed to build them a bunker in Romania. I just hope they have a good desalination system on one of their yachts. Usually those boats do have some form of desalination. I just hope they have a lot of food stockpiled, because it doesn't matter how high your high-rise building is. I would hope that the UAE government prepared for this sort of thing and had a contingency plan where they had emergency food supply, because if they don't, that's just going to be a giant paperweight. The entire city will be nothing without air conditioning, without energy, without water. Yikes, that'd be the worst place to be. The absolute worst place to be. 90% of their food they import. And Kuwait imports about 98%, and they're getting lit up, and the U.S. just abandoned them, and Iran is hitting them left and right today with drones. I talked about the major tech firms that spent billions building out the AI infrastructure in the Gulf. That includes Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Oracle. They all have major exposure. A regional war could wipe out data models and backup systems if they're concentrated in the same theater. And of course, this could be deemed existential. They might not say it, but killing a data center when you're on the cusp of creating something that would rival a new nuclear weapon could be tantamount to a preemptive strike in some ways. Like if the Iranians were enabled with a technology by the Russians or the Chinese that allowed them to destroy some of our AI advanced capabilities that were bringing us to the forefront of creating a conscious, super intelligent LLM. If they destroyed that, that would be like taking out a nuclear weapons stockpile, because that AI could potentially reveal new discoveries that could be weaponized. That's the whole point of it, right? Now, what could happen if these data centers are taken out is the following. Stock platform crashes, crypto exchange freezes, software outages, online booking failures. Firms may discover that their backup systems were in the same conflict zone. All of the accumulated data and AI training investment could be lost. Widespread pandemonium. And then all the critical infrastructure that's all wired into this could start going haywire. So Kuwait is discussing cutting output to what is needed for domestic consumption. And so that means it's going to take them weeks to bring that all back online, if it ever does come back online. A broader decision on production cutbacks could come within days. Around 2.6 million barrels per day are potentially at risk of being taken off the market. Iran reportedly attacked a U.S.-owned oil tanker near Kuwait, and a tugboat, yes, a tugboat, appears to have been lost while responding to the distressed container ship Safine Prestige that I talked about yesterday. So the actual tugboat that went to go and get it, apparently those sailors have been lost at sea, which is crazy. All 8 crew members aboard the tug are allegedly dead. Reported mariner death toll now stands at 11, and ship attacks have risen to 14. 14 ship attacks. The Ukrainians ain't fucking around. Marco Rubio reportedly told Arab foreign ministers that the war with Iran is expected to continue for several more weeks. Current U.S. focus is said to be on Iran's missile launchers, stockpiles, and factories. The Israelis say, don't worry, the Iranians only have 100 or 200 launchers left. Okay? Launchers. And they could, of course, launch potentially many, many missiles from each launcher. That's what they say. We have to just take them up on that. Washington publicly says regime change is not the goal, while signaling it wants different leadership in Tehran. Again, it wants complete surrender, according to Trump. U.S. intelligence reportedly believes China will be preparing to help Iran with financing, spare parts, and missile components. Beijing is said to be moving cautiously out of fear concern over energy flows. Of course, China has the chips that Iran needs. Already talked about the anomaly of no PLA aircraft in the ADIZ, so I won't belabor that point. And that's about it, guys. So, hey, it's all coming down. The shit's hitting the fan. The World War III president is here. And next comes the military draft. Yep, it's coming. We're going to see how many of those TPUSA Crusaders they can get on deck. Unfortunately, disgracing Charlie Kirk's name by using his organization to try to recruit people for World War III. Isn't that something? What a day and age we live in. But you know, you ain't going to change it. But you can still mock it. You can still ridicule it. And it makes for a good butt end of a joke. But all we can do is prep. I mean, that goes without saying. I know I've deviated a lot from the kind of core, what would you call it, directive of this channel, like the thing that originally compelled me to make the channel was to make prepping related content. Unfortunately, information truly is a commodity, even more than it was 4 years ago when I started commenting on the war. Because now with AI slop and propaganda and algorithmic bias, it's becoming very difficult to discern reality for what it is. And so long as it is, I think you'll need people like me to not only aggregate the data, but try to help you parse out what's what. So I hope you found this useful. If you want to support the channel, you know what to do. Thanks for watching.